Hello and welcome to Filling in the Gaps. I'm Justin.
I'm Darren.
Today we're going to discuss would we call it a game?
I mean, yeah, it's a game. It's a mod of a game.
And it is its own thing. It does have its own story. It does have its own flow.
It's got a long playtime.
It's us going back to the Portal world in Portal Reloaded. Portal Reloaded came out earlier this year in April
2021.
And we jumped on it very quickly. I think we both had it wishlisted, and so when that arrived, it's like, I can't wait to jump in. It is a free mod. It took me about 12 hours to play.
Something like the same for me, man.
Dev and publisher Portanis. Already, with only a bit of a week, maybe 2 weeks into it, it had overwhelmingly positive reviews. 5,000. I am not surprised. It's worth playing. It is less story. It's not going to be quite as good as Portal 2, but it's pretty solid. I know that we encountered some bugs that we're going to talk about a bit. I know that I've seen developers responding to things, and there was a patch within the first couple days, so I suspect that it won't remain buggy, and probably by the time this episode comes out, most of that has been worked out. But some of them were kind of funny, and
flying through the air?
Yeah. Not on an aerial.
Or like me, I was rather than flying through the air, I was more like stuck on the ceiling like the laughing people in Mary Poppins, and I couldn't get down.
Overall, it's good, and it's free.
Yeah.
And so I definitely recommend playing it. If you're into Portal, you probably already played it, and that's great.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like this game is so old, but still getting new content made for it. That is a loving community, man. That is so good. It's awesome. And yeah, I like this mod. It was a lot of fun.
It's a strong community that is still producing.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's still people in the workshop, and we are talking about we have talked for a long time about doing some of those levels. I think that some of the people who have probably been active in the workshop are the ones who are creating these kind of standalone mods. They find their own group to work together, their own community.
Yeah.
Certainly, Harry Callahan, known as Harry 101 UK, is involved in pretty much all of the standalone things that we've done so far. They love it. You can tell they love it by the way that they put it together, by the way they try to add the humor, whether it works or not. In this case, I think it works very well. I think that the computer voice that I'm pretty sure Harry Callahan is doing is spot on.
Yeah. It's not quite GLaDOS, but it's trying to be. It's doing its own thing.
It's not GLaDOS, but it is what I would say is the standard generic messaging system is pretty spot on for what it should be. Yeah.
No one has died from this yet.
Yeah, it's great. So I don't think we really need to push it a lot. We both recommend it. It's free, so by all means, jump in, play it, and then come back, because we're going to talk about pretty much everything, but probably some puzzles that we either found frustrating or fun. And in that, we will definitely be giving away answers. So if you don't want spoilers, go play the game and then come back and listen. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Now it's time for your real mission.
We played just now, to full disclosure, we played Reloaded and then went and played Portal Stories Mel right together. So one of the things that we're going to have to be careful about and help each other out is to make sure that we're not
blending.
Yeah, because even some of the messages you sent me, I was thinking, I don't think that that's true. I don't think that was in both games. And then to prepare for the episode, I didn't have time to play them both through again before today. So what I did was watch through some playthroughs. I tried speedruns first, but the stuff that they do is definitely not what I was doing.
Just like, what?
There are some puzzles they just fly through, and I have no idea what they even did. It's amazing, but is not representative of what I did at all. But I do want to mention that, just the fact that, I mean, it took me 12 hours. I saw most of them seem to be at about half an hour, but one was at about under 17 minutes, I believe.
Wow.
And this is within 2 weeks of the game being out.
Yeah. Someone's not got a lot of sleep recently.
It's very, very possible. I think that it's also just possible that this is the love people have for this. It's a bit like us. As soon as we played Reloaded, you said, oh, now I feel like playing more. Let me play Mel, after I've been recommending it to you for a long time.
Yeah.
And as soon as you said that, I was like, well, now I'm going to play it. It wasn't even a second's pause, I think, before I went and installed it back onto my computer. And I'm really surprised I didn't play through that one the whole way the first time, but...
Probably because it's so hard, man.
I think so. It may have been the type of thing where I was waiting for you to come help me. Whereas this one, with Portal Reloaded, we definitely started at the same time.
Yeah,
as soon as it dropped, you sent me a message, and I said, well, there goes my week.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, it's like, I don't have a lot of attention for games, and, you know, we both just played 20 hours of Portal mods back to back.
22 for me, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's a good, it's definitely saying something good about this, that both of those games. But yeah, I like this game. I thought it was a lot of fun. I love the third mechanic, and it's amazing what a third mechanic can bring to a game. You know, it's like they brought something new, and it works for the most part.
For the most part, there are a couple of things that I would change if I could, but I think that it's an interesting first attempt at that. And after playing this one, if they want to make a sequel of some sort,
oh yeah,
I would play it. And I think that one of the strengths of this game, we've talked about this a little bit about this one off air, is that it does scaffold you up. It does give you the information and build it up as though maybe you haven't played this game in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't take anything like for granted. Like, oh, you played Portal 2, you should know everything. It's like, this is like, bar teaching you how to use a portal, then it definitely holds your hand for the first, it's like 5 levels, I think.
As well, it's just chambers for the most part.
Yeah.
There's there's a couple behind the scenes stuff, but it's not like some others where that's what they do. So we did Aperture Tag before in an episode, and part of the problem was wanting to keep doing something different when what the game does and already has works so well.
Right.
They essentially have gotten rid of gels. They haven't used gels, but they used pretty much every other mechanic in the game and just added this one.
Yeah.
The time mechanic. A green portal which smartly looks different.
Very different. Geometrically different.
Exactly. So, and color-wise, they've changed your crosshairs to add the green up there.
Yeah.
But I will say this, like Aperture Tag, I don't know why they've done this, but on the controller, maybe for you it doesn't do that. Okay.
Yeah.
But the colors are backwards.
I don't know why.
I go to play the game, and I'm pretty sure orange is on the left and blue is on the right.
Yeah, that's wrong.
And I fire the color that I can see on that side, the corresponding button, so like the left trigger, and it's the other color. Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why it would do that. This is probably something they will go through and fix, the defaults. But you can change it. So the very first thing, as soon as that happened, after Aperture Tag, I was like, I'm not doing
this again.
I'm not dealing with that again. And it was easy to change, unlike Aperture Tag when we played it. Hopefully that's been corrected, but it was easy to fix, so it didn't take much time. But it did just make me throw my hands up in the air and go, why? Why would you do this? Why would it be like this?
Yeah, now blue left, orange right, middle mouse button for green. There you go. Done.
Which I think is the way it fired, but then why would the colors on the screen be the opposite? That's the problem.
Right.
There are a few things about the time mechanic in the fact that you basically jump into a parallel world that is 20 years in the future.
Yeah.
For the sake of this podcast, I'm going to try and set up a system where we talk about past cubes and future cubes.
Yeah, not clean cubes, dirty cubes, or future past, or...
Clean and dirty would kind of work, but I think it'll just be much more clear if we say past and future. I know that one of the timelines is supposed to be our present. I believe the clean one is supposed to be our present, but I'm going to just say past and future because otherwise it gets very muddy, and I don't want that. With the time portal, you can only place it somewhere that is identical in both locations.
Yeah.
That's important for a few puzzles. When you jump into a time portal for momentum, you will jump back out in the same place, but in the other time.
Hopefully carrying the same momentum.
Yes.
But not always.
But that's not even just the time portal in this game. Regular portals as well seem to have that problem where they've decided, I think, that momentum is a real issue and that air resistance is an issue, which Portal 2 kind of ignored completely. So if you drop a cube into one portal and it bounces out of one, you get one good shot before it starts to go lower and lower each time. That became a bit of an issue for some of the puzzles.
It does when you're trying to... I mean, I know it doesn't work in the laws of physics and with air resistance, but...
Game
in
physics
Portal,
would be great.
Yeah, in Portal 2 or Portal 1, it's never been a problem. And then all of a sudden it is. I don't know if it's a programming issue, where it's like, we have this physics line of code, and we don't know how to change it, or we can't be bothered changing it. But it would be nice to just have those things bouncing around, like up and down, in and out of portals, while you pan around and look for, okay, I've got that set up. Now let me look for the next part of the solution. Some of the parts in this game become a bit, not parkour, but like timed, and they've got a few timed levels here already, but they become not necessarily, like, you don't need to have them timed, but they become timed automatically because of this weird mechanic they've decided to go with.
And that's one thing that I feel the mod community, at least the ones that I've played, and these 3 standalones that I've played now as well, they seem to want to have these timing tricky ones, which those were never my favorite in the Portal series. Mine were the ones where I could just take my time, mess around a bit, and just play around and see what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
And I find, especially playing through these over the past couple of weeks, is that seems to be my style of solving Portal type puzzles, is to just play around with it until I understand it or until I see what's working. And when you do something like that, and as well just the time mechanic as well at times, or particularly with the time mechanic, because I understand their logic to a point with the time mechanic and what you can do with future cubes and past cubes. But the thing is, whenever you mess with the past, then that alters where everything is that you set up in the future. And that can be very frustrating for me for laser puzzles where I'm just a little bit off, and then I have to go back to the other timeline to figure that out. Or where I move the past cube just a little bit, and now I've got to go get the future cube back again.
Yeah.
But also, and we've discussed this in a number of games, order of operations can be a real frustration. And this game is real key for order of operations is super important, because if you mess it up, you're setting up a whole mess of problems in the other timeline.
Yeah, and especially if you're like, okay, so I need this for this, I need this cube for this block to like weigh this this square down, and then you get it there, and you're like, oh wait, that's the wrong timeline cube. I've got to do everything again, but use the past cube instead of the future cube for that.
Yeah. Or I have it all set up, but it's just a little bit off. I have it all set up, but it's just a little bit off.
Yeah.
And I know it is. And the number of times I went, well, I'm going to try it anyway just to see, because I'm going to have to do it all over again anyway.
Right.
And that was a problem. I think that with the save system in this one isn't quite as good as far as the points they've chosen.
Okay. I didn't notice anything. If anything, I thought the save system was all right, to be honest. If I died, then I started off, I was quite happy where I started again.
See, often I wasn't. Often I had to reset up a whole bunch of things from where I had.
Because I think how they've done it is they've done it like, okay, did you get this cube or did you press this switch? This is right. If you die from here on, this is where you'll restart, because it's like you've done everything right up until this point. So I kind of liked that, because I was like, okay, I don't have to backtrack too much.
Right. And that's what I wanted. But for some reason in this one, I just felt constantly like it was starting me off way further back than I had intended.
You probably made a ton of mistakes then.
I probably did. And so the frustration may just be on me. But a lot of times it just felt to me like I wasn't starting where I wanted to. I felt like a lot of times I was starting at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've made that many mistakes. And it felt to me like in Portal 2, for example, it's saving all the time because you're constantly making a little bit of progress towards where you're trying to be. And like you said, that means I know I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
This one, I didn't know if it was me who was not on the right track or if this is just the way they designed it and it didn't work quite as well. But I just felt it wasn't saving as often. It wasn't giving me as many steps. And there were a lot of times where I'm pretty sure, now I could be wrong, this could be me just remembering it the way that I want to remember it. But there were a number of times where I did this. I've done this again and again and again. And it is right because there's no other. Well, I'm sure the speedrunners have figured out another way, but the solution ended up being correct.
Right.
I just think maybe they weren't as many save points as I would have liked.
I agree, because there was definitely some points where there was one we'll talk about way later, up in the teens levels, where you put down a light bridge to catch that cube with the two platforms that are going up and down. There should be a save point up there, but every time I screwed something up, I was always back down on the ground. Why not just, start me up, have a save point where I've caught the cube and I'm ready to jump down, because that is definitely part of the logical way to do that puzzle. Yeah, so like the whole light bridge one where you catch the cube, there should be a save point up there. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like, it's almost like they've not added them in. Maybe on purpose, I don't know, but...
Maybe that's something that they will... There were some times where I had a cube, but then when it started over, I didn't have that cube anymore.
Right.
It's little things like that can be just incredibly frustrating when you're playing over and over again. I'm not just playing one chamber, I'm playing this for 12 hours.
Yeah.
I think that this is something that very likely, as a community gives feedback, that may change. But also, most of the community that really wants to play this game probably doesn't have as much trouble as I did.
They played every mod out there.
As far as sections, I love the way that they did the sections. The sections, as I said about knowledge, they leveled it up as you went through, but they basically broke it down by each thing. So the first one is like an introduction, and then they give you the time portal, but much like the originals, you don't get to place the time portal. You need to understand how it works before you can place it. Then you get into cubes and buttons. Then you get into having your own portal gun, but still you can't mess with the time portal, but know how to use portals and the portal gun on your own. And then we get into using time portals, and then some timing and lasers and aerial faith plates. They are broken up into sections where they add a mechanic a bit at a time. And often in that section, you'll get 2 to 3 different puzzles working with that mechanic to play around with it. Also, just before you get to that mechanic, there's usually some sort of symbol of that mechanic on your way as you're going through the catwalk to get to it. So with the aerial faith plate, I think there was a cube that was bouncing constantly inside of a box.
That's right, yeah.
When we get to lasers, there are a whole bunch of lasers just in the floor on your way as you get there. It's a great way to say, this is what you're going to be seeing now.
Yeah.
And it was really, really cleverly done.
I did like the in the introduction when you're coming in, because basically this story is you are just basically plucked out of stasis, aren't you? And like, we're running some tests today. You're the lucky one. And we've both been watching a lot of Taskmaster recently, and it's like, you've been in stasis for 16 days and 40 years.
Which is how Alex Horn does it a lot of times.
An Alex way to say the time of how they completed something. But yeah, I like all the little kind of banter bits between the stages as well. So like when you're walking towards the bouncing cube, like you said, or the lasers, you get, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. There'll be something funny usually. And I think that the game has been, not only is it, take that back. I'm not going to say anyone can code, but anyone who can code has the potential to make a really good game, or mod in this case. But not everyone has the ability to write, and they probably outsourced this. I don't know. I don't know what they did, but they must have got someone like, hey, who can write? Like, I can. Okay, boom, you got a job.
I suspect that Harry Callahan, who has done so much Portal fan content, has a very good concept of what sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
And every voice he did in this one, and also in Mel, which we will talk about when we record that episode, just the cadence is right, the tone is right, the words are right. I suspect, I could be totally wrong, but I suspect that he wrote these lines.
Mm-hmm.
Or if not, he tweaked them to make them sound just right. And that's the thing. Pretty much every line in this one is him. I think he's the only voice, because I think the computer voice is the only voice we get in this one, correct?
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty much every line is pretty spot on. We get lines of dialogue that explain what we're going to be doing, to give information about how the mechanics work, but also are entertaining in the Portal 2 fashion that I love so much.
Yeah.
It's a bit of story, it's a bit of what you need to know, it's a bit of humor, all wrapped up into one, and the tone is right. And so, yeah, I love this one.
I should be a better listener when I play games, because by chapter 3 and 4, I was just like, what? I was texting you going, Justin, I don't know what's going on, man. Help me.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. This also deals with time travel.
Yeah.
Which we know from games like the Talos Principle. It does pretty much anybody. It can do your head in, but you in particular, it seems to really, really affect you. And the rules.
The whole game is about time travel as well. I was totally screwed.
I was a bit worried. And then some of the things you were sending me, it just made me realize you didn't listen. So I'm trying to explain it to you. I'm like, this makes no sense. I'm like, well, they did try to explain it to you.
I mean, there was one thing, I'll stick by my guns and say, there is one point where they're like, oh, you can't take something from the past into the future. It's like, well, I'm traveling from the past into the future. Why am I not destroyed? Like, that I also have causality. Don't I? Or maybe I don't. Maybe we're bots or something like that. I don't know. We never see our hands.
That is one of my favorite lines in the game, though. It's something along the lines of, on the bright side, if you don't see yourself in 20 years, then you know you must have solved it at some point.
Oh, yeah. On the bright side is, if you don't see your corpse on the floor 20 years from now, you must have solved the puzzle.
And I don't know if it was the very first one, but one of the earliest ones was saying, you can solve this puzzle in 2 ways. You can either use a time portal, or you can wait 20 years.
The choice is yours. Yeah.
With times, though, different times, you do have some times where something is broken in one timeline, but isn't in another.
Mm-hmm.
Lasers that are working. Oddly, it was very odd for me when something didn't seem to work in the past, but it was working in the future.
Right.
And that would be my level 18, the bane of existence for hours on end, because I just couldn't figure it out. But overall, I did feel frustrated at times, but I think that was the only one where I was really kind of angrily frustrated.
Oh, yeah, 18. I really like this chamber.
Because you solved it. I had to get you.
I solved it, yeah.
I had to get you to help me with it, because I just couldn't seem to wrap my head around it. I knew what I needed.
I liked it because it was symmetrical. It had a faith plate in the middle, and it was like, it was really and a lot. Some of these levels, it's almost like they've taken Portal 2 and been like, I like that level, I'm going to use it again. They've done that for a few of these levels. This was one of them, and it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing here, but I just got to work out how to do it, you know? But this one was a bit tricky because, and again, I probably solved this completely wrong, but...
No, look, if you solved it, you couldn't solve it.
Yeah. But I mean, more elegantly, I guess, because when I was watching the playthrough, especially one of these ones with the lasers, wait until you see the video of how I solved it. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The playthrough I saw, it was all just like a laser comes in, it shoots off at 90 degrees, it hits a cube, it goes off at another 90 degrees into a portal, and then into the thing. I had this weird, it looked like a bloody cat's cradle, man. It was just a mess, just everywhere. And I was like pie slicing it, like, okay, if I just aim it there, okay. And I don't know how I managed to do it, man, but it was disgusting.
I do think that is an issue that maybe we should bring up now, is the fact that we may have not solved things in the most elegant of fashions. I know that right towards the end of the game, there is one where you are doing light bridges across, and you have to push a button to get the cube to fly up, but if it goes too far, it is instantly disintegrated in the Emancipation Grill. And
oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yep.
And you're all in water, so if it drops at the wrong spot at any point, it just falls. And when I watched the playthrough, they had a way of...
They put a light bridge up.
Which I tried and I couldn't seem to figure out how to do. Do you know how I did it?
I did it with pure speed.
Yes. So we probably solved it the same way. And it was very frustrating. And I was just kind of gritting my teeth and going, this can't be the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. This is not very Portal. Yeah, well, the way I was solving it was not very Portal.
We're thinking with portals, yeah.
It can be done, and I tried. I did try, but catching it just seemed to be the more logical solution. It was faster, but it definitely wasn't better, because I would often miss it by just a second. I would see it and hear the grasp not catch it just as it was passing by.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, in by the wall, shoot the light bridge up there. Okay, back through the portal, hit the button, back out. No, you have to do that. You have to do in the portal, press the button, back through the portal, up there, back inside, go up top, go and run across the walkway, catch it. And then this other guy's just like, no, you just put a light bridge there and just press the button and walk 5 paces to the right. Done.
And it will fall perfectly into your arms.
Yeah. What a mess. What a mess.
So some of the things that we may complain about, by all means tell us in the comments that we're idiots, because there's probably a much better, much more elegant way to solve the puzzle than what we chose to do. When it comes to puzzles that just felt good, though, that just kind of felt like coming home, there were a handful of them. For me, the first aerial faithplate one was like that. You're just in a rectangular room with some angled walls, and I was like, oh, let me just play around and see where I go.
Oh, and yeah. I like this one.
By the second time, I made it to the end, and I didn't even realize I had. I got there, and I turned around, saw where I was, and went, wait, I'm at the end? It was so Portal 2 that I didn't even have to think about it. It was almost instinctual.
Yeah, and that's one of the levels I was thinking about, where it's like, yeah, you like that, because that reminded me of the one level in Portal 2 where you have to, it's much more extended though, where you actually have to get up, and you're using the things to rise up the room, basically. It's just a room full of pillars. But no, I like this room because it was like that, but you had to use the time portal as well to get even further. For me, not as easy as what you solved it. This one took me a bit longer for sure.
Did it? This one, like I said, maybe I just lucked into it. Maybe I wouldn't be able to do it again. This could be one of those where I go, well, I did this very easily the first time. Yeah, because I didn't even really think about it. I just was playing around with it and happened to find the right combination. But this is a great one for jumping into the time portal and then it bouncing you back in the same direction. And when the mechanic works, it feels very, very good.
Oh yeah, let's talk about puzzle 10, because I know you didn't like this, and then you did like it in the end. That's the one with the kind of walkway that's high up in the middle that goes out, and there's the stairs on either side that go up through the Emancipation Grounds.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, U-shaped dais at the end. I had a number of problems in this one.
I think this is where you first realize that, oh, the momentum's not conserving.
So that was a problem. So that is problem one, because getting the cube to fall in, and then if I didn't catch it on the first bounce up, like through the portals, then I probably wasn't going to catch it, and I was going to have to start that section over again. The other thing is just, and I noticed this a number of times in the game, the way the level is designed, it's fine, but the way that it looks, the angle that it has, makes it really awkward for me to know where things line up. And I'm not sure if there's a solution to this, or if this is something in my brain that just isn't seeing the way things as it should be. But there were, to get up on that dais, there were these white tiles on the ceiling,
which I didn't see for the longest time.
It took me a little while to see them as well.
How do you get over there?
It did take me a little while to see that as well. But I also thought that it wasn't lining up with the alcove there. I thought it was lining up with the white tiles on the floor. So I thought it was another sort of momentum thing that I was going to have to do, and I couldn't seem to get them to line up. It wasn't until I actually walked over there or portaled over there that I realized, oh, this is how it is. I just couldn't see it. And so for me, everything wasn't quite lining up. And that was a number of times through these puzzles that, I mean, we did just play Mel. I didn't have that same problem with Mel for the most part. So maybe it's just the way they've designed it and my brain don't connect properly sometimes. But this is also where, I don't know if this is the first time we get the squares that outline, the black outline, that basically dictates how your portals go. It's good in some ways because of the fact that if it needs to be a particular way, you don't have to worry about trying to turn yourself around in just the right way. But it can also be a bit of a hindrance when it comes to the end game, just because you can't make slight adjustments. And sometimes when it comes to the lasers, slight adjustments can make a world of difference.
Right. I like this level once I figured out how to get across that the little gap. Again, this is one of the ones where I was looking at the walkthrough, going, just shaking my head. I wrote down my notes here. Wow, watching a walkthrough, I solved this like a kid trying to crush a. I solved this like a kid trying to. What did I write there? Oh yeah, sorry. Take 3. I solved this like a kid smashing the triangle through the circle in the Fisher-Price set. What an absolute disaster of solving this. But yeah, good level. I enjoyed it.
At the same time, though,
if it works, it works.
Yes, and how great that there are multiple ways to solve things.
Yeah.
Which is where the speedruns kill me, because I see them go, I never would have realized I could do things like that. I saw one where it was just one that really, I think it's another one that you had to help me out with, where you have the 2 time portals. So there's one in a little balcony.
Another one you're talking about. It's like the double level one.
Yeah, there's a momentum where you have to jump down, and there's an angled wall, and there's another angled wall, but with like emancipation grills are a real problem in this level. Like that's the obstacle that you have to overcome.
That was the problem where we're like, okay, so you were saying like, oh, if I go through the emancipation grill, it removes all of my portals, and it was like, yeah, no, but if you place them in the future, it won't. Like that was the issue with this room, wasn't it? It was like you had to get them, you had to travel into the future, pop the portal up on the top one so you can go through, then go through the grill in the past, so that one would still be there in the future. But yeah, and then listening again, watching the walkthrough and listening to it, I think we both kind of misheard that, because you were like, oh, this doesn't work. They told you that it scrubs all the portals, but it doesn't, because otherwise this room would be completely unsolvable, wouldn't it? But I think in the description, he says, hang on, I made a note of this somewhere. He says, if a portal closes in the past, it will close in the future. He doesn't say if the future ones will close, if you have them already set up in the future. So, but yeah, I don't know. Sometimes the game seems like it's making up its own rules, and Like the whole momentum thing that doesn't carry through. Sometimes you can place a portal and it will disappear. For me anyway, I'm obviously not thinking in portals because maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the logic is watertight and it's me that's the idiot, which is probably 99.9% the case. But I did feel like, it's like, why does that work all of a sudden? Or why am I allowed to do that? Or why am I not allowed to do that? It's probably a human problem is between keyboard and chair.
I just loved playing some of the areas. The second area of Faith Play. So the first one I did very, very quickly, but the second one, I think I might have just taken a while jumping back and forth, just going, wee.
Was that the one where you're bouncing it on the plate and then you have to portal through, go across, catch it, and go through the emancipation grill in the future that's broken?
Oh, I think you're right. I think that I'm confusing that one with a different one. The one where I was jumping is you can just jump across and jump back and jump across.
Right.
Like, I enjoyed that because it's like, wee.
Yeah.
It's fun when you can go back and forth. It's not as much fun when you...
Yeah, I have to start again.
Yeah.
I had a real problem with that one that I just talked about because I didn't realize that the grills, and again, they explain it, I'm an idiot, they explain that you can walk through the orange and green grills without losing your portals. So it was just a case of going inside, putting a portal, coming outside, putting a portal, and then walking through it. It's like, oh God, I'm stupid. It took forever. I was like, this is impossible. I was so angry with this level. This doesn't make sense. No, Darren, you don't make sense, you idiot.
In 22, 22 is another one that I want to mention.
Oh, the colliding cubes one.
Yes.
I like this one because it's straight out of Portal Co-op.
Yes, except you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
And there are 2 levels that do that. This is one of them. The cube funnel to get it to fall in and fall on the button perfectly. As soon as I saw it, I went, is that what that is? That's really clever. It is so simple of a concept, but that's very clever.
And it's new, you know? It's like, we've not seen this in Portal before. That's what I like mods that will, totally run with the old stuff, but add one little thing that's new. And this is cool. This could go in the regular game easily.
Definitely. And I love the way that, like you said, it's co-op by yourself. So you have to get the cubes to come in. And it's a huge funnel. I had a huge concern that it would collide and not make it into the funnel, but that...
It's big enough.
It's big enough. I thought, I'm going to have to time this perfectly. Because with the co-op, it's pretty much you have to time it perfectly. But with this, no, you don't have to. They've accounted for that. That's why there's a giant funnel. It's not the type of thing where it has to fall perfectly and just land. It is one thing with trying to get cubes to fall on buttons perfectly. That's tough to do, and the funnel helps fix that.
Yeah, even really getting to fall off a light bridge onto a switch can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, because they still have physics and momentum.
Yeah, I've done that so many times. It's like falls down and then boom, and then just roll. I've hit the lip of it and it just rolls off. Before that, well, way before that, because it was towards the end.
That's fine. We're jumping. Obviously, we're not going in order. Yeah.
The other one was, I think it was number 12. This was the first time that I noticed, like, the momentum's not carrying through. And that's the one where it's like, there's the 2 things on the edge. It's a big water hazard in the middle, and you've got, it's the one when you came over and I showed you. I was like, look at this, Justin. Look at this. This is not Portal, because the momentum's not carrying over.
Right, and I agreed with you that was an issue.
I like this level in the end. God, I hated it when I was doing it because, well, I was dumb.
It didn't...
I still don't really fully understand it.
This one, I feel like it didn't really pose much of a problem for me. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say, I solved this in 2 seconds. Yeah. It wasn't like 16 where I just lucked my way through. It took me a little while to figure it out, but it didn't feel... Like, this is the thing. When it comes to Portal games and these kind of puzzles, it feels long when you feel stuck.
Yeah.
And this puzzle, I never really felt stuck. So it probably took me a while to solve it. I mean, there are 25 chambers and it took me 12 hours. So it took me, on average, at least half an hour to kind of get through most of these. But it didn't feel long. I felt like I was constantly figuring out the next step.
Right.
18 was the problem for me because in 18... that's when you have to, well, at least the way that we did it. I saw somebody do a speedrun of that level after you helped me get through it. And actually, even to try and figure it out, but the way they were doing it, I couldn't do it. So that's when I said, look, I've even tried to watch one. That's right. I tried to watch one. I don't know what they were doing, because they were doing a thing where they were falling through the portal on the ground, just from ground level, to an angled one. It's almost like they were jumping through into the one on the floor, and then that was enough momentum to get them onto the ledge on the other side where the laser was. Maybe they were running and jumping through, but every time I tried to walk up and jump through, I always fell short.
Right.
So I don't know if there was a bug they were taking advantage of, or if they're just so much better at the platforming side of it. Portal for me is about the puzzle. I'm terrible when it comes to the platforming side of Portal. First person platforming for me is always a disaster. I just have no sense of where I am.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly trying to run and jump to somewhere and falling off the edge because I waited too long.
Yeah. Well, number 11, Puzzle 11 wasn't really a first person platforming one, but it was timed, and this one kind
Which
of
one is
melted my
11?
mind.
Is
That was
this
the one with the 3 timer.
The one,
The one with the 3 timer buttons you got to
right.
hit.
1, 2, 3, you've got to do in order. It was difficult.
I knew
for
what I
me.
was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing, but I just couldn't do it for the longest. It took me 12, 15 times to get it right, man.
Order of operations was a huge issue in this one, but this kind of timed puzzle,
I'm happy.
I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more time, but at the same time, as I told you in a message, I solved it already and didn't realize I had solved it. Because you get a check mark.
Yeah.
And the others didn't. Like, they went back to blue, and so I was just looking at those and going, oh, no, I must have missed it.
But the door's open in front of
And
you.
so I do it again. Yeah, the door must have been open. I think I did it 2 more times before I realized, actually, I've already solved it. Because I kept thinking, oh, I'm just so close. I'm so close. So clearly there was enough time, unless I hit a bug that allowed me through when I shouldn't have. But I think in my head, the idea was I had to hit all 3 buttons. One of them still had to be ticking as I ran through the door, but that's not the way that it works.
No, you just got to hit the last button before the timer runs out. Yeah.
And then it's open permanently.
Right.
That I wasn't expecting. So, extra frustration on my part, totally unnecessary.
For nothing, yeah. Okay, so I've got my notes here. Level 20. I love level 20 because now I understand what the is going on. It's like it took me 3/4 of the game to actually be like, okay, now this is my wheelhouse. It's like if anyone says, "Hey, are you any good at Portal Reloaded?" It's like, now I'm comfortable with it.
What was 20?
20 was the one. Level 19 was the light bridges, and that was the one.
20 is the one we were talking about before with the...
Is that the one with all the turrets and the light bridges?
There is one turret that you have to take out, I believe. Do you? No, they're all running together. 20 is definitely the one where I had to hit the button and I ran through the light bridge to catch the cube.
Oh, okay, well then that's the one. The one before that, level 20 was the one where I finally felt at peace and I was like, okay, I know what's going on now. I can complete the rest of the game without too much of a headache. 19 was really hard. That was the one with the rows and rows of turrets. Yes. How did you solve that? Because I solved that like a man banging rocks together.
Well, certainly at first. I had a real problem with it at first because I had a problem, and in watching the playthrough, I think that this is a problem not just with me, but placing the portals sometimes, it's a bit tricky. It doesn't have as much forgiveness as Portal 2 does. So there were times where I was trying to get it to work with a light bridge, but I just couldn't get the portal to go behind the starting point of the light bridge. That could be real frustrating. And I just had real trouble sometimes getting it to stick. And that shouldn't be the case. And I can't imagine why it's the case. If they're just modding the base game, that shouldn't happen. So I'm not sure what's going on. But I saw in the playthrough a few times where shoot, it's not going.
Yeah.
And then like the 5th time it goes. So clearly it's not just me. I think it's probably just certain sections and certain walls where it's a problem.
Yeah. But they had this thing where they're like, light bridge this way at an angle. I managed to get that. You have to get that. But they had it coming through both sides. That just kind of blew my mind. I was like, I don't even want to watch that again to see how you did it. I got it down one side. I grabbed a cube and then I used that as a shield as I strafed down the side and then all the turrets shot at me.
Oh, we're talking about different levels.
Ah, okay.
So you're talking about the wall of lasers.
No. It's like all the turrets are behind meshes. It's like an L-shaped room.
Right. Okay. But I'm confused how you did that then. So
am I.
What I did was probably very similar to the playthrough, just much, much slower. So get the light bridge to be
like perpendicular.
Yeah, so that it's a wall.
Yes.
Blocking off. Walk across. Do it again, because now you have turrets on both sides of you. Do it again and have a time portal so that it's going through the other side, jump through the time portal, which was a bit of an issue with the light bridge sometimes, as the light bridge always is. Yeah, because sometimes you're on the right side.
You can't get through your own portal, yeah.
But figure that out. I can get through, and then, okay, great. There's a cube that's going to fly through, but there's an emancipation grill, which is going to disintegrate it.
So you got to stand on that button.
So I could get to the other side in the future. Right. But in the future, there is no light bridge. So the light bridge always has to come from the past. Mm-hmm. So, as is always the case with Portal games, throughout it, and Mel as well, I'm always thinking, I just need one more thing. Yeah. Is it hidden somewhere? Is there one more thing I could do? I need one more portal. They basically give me 4 portals and a time portal. So in a way, you kind of have 5 portals to play with. Yeah. And it still sometimes doesn't feel like enough. But that's why. Because they're always going to push things to where it's not super easy. If I blew through it and if I had done this game in 30 minutes the first time, I wouldn't have been very happy with it. Right. But finding the way from the end point back to where I needed to get onto the light bridge to come down to walk to the exit, I knew that was the step. I knew looking at it, that's going to be a light bridge that comes down. Yeah. But how do I get it? It's always like I see the beginning and I see the end, but there's one step in the middle that I just can't quite see. Now with this game, sometimes it was because right near the exit, there is a white portal wall for us, but we can't know that until we get there. So I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And then you get there and you go, oh, well, it's going to be easy now because I can just put one here and one on the ground and grab a cube. Yeah. Whereas, I'm thinking, how am I going to get me and the cube up there? It's not possible. This was one of those times where I couldn't really tell you the step, because this is the annoying thing is the hardest step is the one that I can't remember. And that's how I got from the end part back to getting the tunnel to work again. But once I got it, it feels great. Yeah. When I'm walking down that light bridge. Yep. I feel so happy. Yeah.
Sorry, that was actually level 21. Level 19 was the one with the huge water hazard that's everywhere, and you've got to go across the light bridge through 2 emancipation grills. That's one thing I love about Portal in general is I've got this thing where my memory is terrible, but for some reason I can remember certain things, and games is one of them. And I took a photographic memory picture of this level, and I thought about it all day at work, and I was going through my mind like, if I do that, and I was thinking about it. And when I came home, I work from home, so when I finished work, fired it up, and I was like, boom, 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 done. And it was like, oh wow, I'm some kind of genius. I felt like that until the very next chamber, of course.
I didn't have that so much with this one, and maybe I should have, but I did find that a bit with Mel, that I was doing that. Take a break, think about it, and then solve it later. One of them, it was a bit like the Queen's Gambit. Have you seen that? Yeah. Well, she's a chess player envisioning the board on the ceiling. Okay. And basically, I was lying down, trying to sleep, and the puzzle I was stuck on was stuck in my head. Right. And I was going through it, and oh, of course. I'll do that tomorrow. And
That's so good, isn't it? It's like that is the hallmark of a great game, man. Where it's like it's got you thinking about it after you're not playing it. You're going through solutions, and then you come up with them. I love that. Sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to say? But yeah, that's so good. I mean, I guess the only thing I've got to talk about is Excursion Funnels. And this was my bug time. Level 23 was the one where basically weird. It's just a cube-shaped room, and you just got to get through an emancipation grill. I had a huge problem with this room, and it wasn't helped by the fact that when I went up the excursion funnel and hit the roof, I was stuck up there and just swimming around. When I walked out of it, I just kept on going, and I was convinced for the longest time, because in the future, the panels on the roof are down. I was convinced that you had to jump up into that, because I thought I could see a bit of white up there. I spent way too long trying to get in there, and maybe that's what forced the bug. I've got no idea, but it was gone when I quit out and went back in, thankfully. Otherwise, I'd be probably pretty screwed. couldn't complete it. But yeah, so how did you, because I was like, oh man, I need your help with this one, because I'm stupid, and I couldn't.
So we're talking, it's very simple, it's just basically a cube room.
It's basically, you make a T-shape with the two tunnels. Yeah, because I was thinking, I can't shoot through the emancipation grill to put the portal in the back.
No, you've got to do it from the side.
Yeah. Oh, a child of 5 could do that. It was like, took me an hour. Like, I can shoot it at an angle. Idiot. You can actually shoot it from the ground.
One thing that they've done in this one and also in Mel is the white walls, the white tiles that are behind mesh, like a metal mesh. So you can get a tunnel to go, but you can't put something through that wall. And this one is one of those where it's like, this would be super easy if I could just go through that wall.
Yeah.
No, it was frustrating. It took me a little while, but yeah, the T-shapes and jumping between time, I was able to get it. And once I got it, it felt like Portal. I was quite happy with it. The big one I want to talk about is number 24.
Oh, 24.
Yeah. Before I get to 25, I want to talk about 24 because I love 24.
I've written down, for some reason, Portal 2 co-op.
Yes, because remember...
Oh, yes, that's right, because it's the level platforming change.
So again, instead of having to help somebody go through a labyrinth,
yes,
you just have to get your cube through the labyrinth. It's very much like the co-op, but you get to play by yourself.
Yeah.
And figuring out where the tunnels will go and having to... the hardest thing for me was, I saw it very quickly. This is what the puzzle is. Figuring out the timing and where everything needs to go, that took a little while. But then, stupidly, I just could not figure out how I was going to get the other cube that I needed without realizing, of course, I can just time and get it from where it finishes. Because I kept thinking, if I mess with the past cube, I'm not going to get the future cube, and I'm going to have to start over. And it was so simple once I figured it out. I was overcooking it again, and I was just, come on, just do it. But overall, I love this level. And even as I was playing it, there's a huge smile on my face. Because, I'm basically having to put it through a maze of these different walls and gaps and get it to a button. And it's so simple, but it takes a little while to figure out. Yeah,
exactly. And there's a big hint as well. Like, if you get to the end, like I did, okay, I've got the cube on the button. What do I do now? And what's that? Why does that plate come out and hold the cube there? Directly over the thing? It's like...
Right, I did notice that. And that arm is kind of a waste.
Yeah, it's a waste. It's like, nope, it's there for a reason. Okay, now I've got it. But yeah, that's a great level. I like that level. Like the last couple of levels were great. 24 and then 25. I like 25. I cheesed it a little bit. And I did watch the playthrough. You came up with this. You're like, is there a way to stop that cube with a light bridge? Evidently there is, because that's what they did in the playthrough, in the walkthrough. I mean, I didn't. I squeezed through the lasers with like a 0.5 seconds gap.
Honestly, that's what I ended up doing too, because I couldn't quite make the light bridge work.
Okay.
I hated this level at first because I didn't realize what was going on.
There's a lot going on in this level.
There's
4 laser grills to get through.
Timing. So timing is a bit of an issue where you have to... You go through the doors in order, which I wasn't thinking. I was thinking, oh, they all need to be open. I need to get them all open. But I only have 1 laser.
Yes.
And that's a problem. And so I understand their hint now where they said take things a step at a time.
Right.
And I should have listened to that more. I was very angry because I'm like, there are 2 receivers for 1 and 2. There's another one for 3. There's no way I can make this work because I only have 1 laser. And once it clicked, once I saw, oh yeah, well, 2 and 3, and there's a light tunnel, like an excursion funnel, I can get that to go up, and then it'll go up to the button. I was like, oh, now,
One step at a time.
Now I see. But there were a couple of problems. First would be the laser. So again, there's a very designated area, one of those squares that tells you this is exactly where the portal's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a real problem of getting the laser so that it can hit a prism cube on the ground and get to 1. But when I put a prism cube on the ground to make it hit 2, the laser was too high and I couldn't change that. This was a bug in the game where that shouldn't have happened. Oh, sorry. I don't think this was a square thing. I think I was placing it as low as I possibly could. It was a 2 rectangle section, and so it felt like a square because it could only go... I think it could only go 1 place. Like I wanted to get it lower, but it couldn't go lower. It's like, it's going to be centered.
Right.
It's going to be centered, and I can't get it lower. And so my laser was shooting over the cube. And so anytime that happened, much like you found with your bug, I had to restart the game. Mm-hmm. And then it would be okay, but then I would die or mess something up, and then it would happen again. And this is one where they do give you save points.
The save checkpoints in this part are really good.
They're good, except, boy, I would have liked it to be where I had number 1 and number 2 ready to go. But you have to get through and I think jump through the time portal or hit that. There's something you do that makes that happen. Whereas I had it, but I think I didn't push the button or I went too far. There was something that made it so I ended up having to do 1 and 2 again. And that was very frustrating.
I think the save point is after you finish 2. I think it's after you finish 2, then it's after you finish 3, and then it's after you finish 4, like the laser drills. So it's 2, 3, 4, I think, are the save points. Because 1 and 2 come directly after each other.
There's also the weird thing of the light tunnel that can make the cube go upstairs, which I feel like it shouldn't.
Yes.
And 3.
Oh, the one where the cube is like, boop.
Yeah, there's like a god hand that mysteriously moves the cube so that it perfectly goes.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things I think in this game where they make it work for you, but you don't necessarily know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I mean, I think
it's a minor thing. In a full game, I would probably be a little annoyed, but with a mod, especially that I got for free, yeah, okay, fine.
I think I know what they were trying. I mean, in their mind, the way that you have to angle it to hit button number 2, button number 3 is directly above it. Anyway, so it makes sense, but because of the base game, it's like as soon as you put it in the excursion funnel, it centers, doesn't it? And so they've just uncentered it for you. So yeah, I'm totally on board with that. That's
compensated,
fine.
Yeah.
Because rather than reprogram it to like, okay, everything that goes into an excursion funnel stays at that angle, that would be a real pain in the butt to program, I guess.
And it would probably mess up all the other puzzles.
Everything, yeah. So yeah, give them that. But yeah, it's like when it hits that button, it hits it for like less than a second, and it's like towards the end I kept on dying, and then eventually I was like, okay, I'll just look at it and then I'll strafe sideways through, manage to get through,
which you told me, which is the only way that I made it through, because I was trying to time it as soon as it went open.
Yeah,
I was trying to leap through, and every time I was dying,
even that split second reaction of like, okay, it's off, go, that time it takes you to process off and go, you're dead. You've got to be watching for it and then, go through it. And then right at the end, I was right at the door and I was messaging you like, yeah, I'm through. And then for the longest time, it's like, I'm done. And you're like, I can't do it. And you're like, oh, I'm finished. I was like, shit, I was ahead of you. But now I'm just like stumped. What am I doing? And then you watched me. And you're like, Darren, what are you doing? You've solved this. It's like, oh, yeah. Again, Darren has done part 55.
Well, you were just doing your cubes backwards.
No. I thought I was doing them backwards, but then you kind of.
You were about to. You were about to do it again.
You spotted me, and you're like, no. This is right. I'm like, what am I doing? You're like, go and pick up the other cube. Yeah. It's right there. Oh, yeah.
I think the trickiest thing with that is realizing, oh yeah, I can just drop the other cube down and move it using the tunnels and get it up to the button where I need it to be. Once you see that, and I saw that kind of quickly once I got to that point. Because you told me, just kill yourself if you mess up on the last part. It's faster and easier, which in some ways it is. I was like, oh, actually, you can correct yourself on this one. It's the same thing with the... I think part of the problem was I had a lot of trouble with the cube for 2. The way I would do my timing and with the tunnels, I'd accidentally move it across and then go, oh, well, I can just move it back.
Yeah.
You know, realizing, oh, I can move it back, and realizing that that's part of what you need to be doing here. Yeah, it was so frustrating, and I hated it when I first started it, and I was so angry because it didn't feel like it was following its own rules, but for the most part it was. Take away the bug, and this is a perfectly fine level, and this is a great way to do a last level where, again, we're experimenting and using most of the things that we have played around with before. You can get away without the light bridge, but it's probably easier if you can figure out how to make it work.
Yes.
And then we end in a section where we are supposed to go to sleep. I didn't do that ending. What happens?
If you just don't do anything, you just you get sucked up into one of those tubes, and then it just goes black, and the credits roll. They're like, okay, thank you. Basically, it says something like, thanks for your service. We'll see you again if we need you for more testing. And the credits roll.
Or you try to escape, which is what I did immediately, not thinking, oh, I should probably see if there's another ending. But I jumped through, and here's another bug in the game where I tried to put a portal on the white tiles on the floor to escape the spikes, and instead it placed a time portal. Which I think is the correct answer.
Thanks, hint system. Yeah.
So I escaped. I went, oh, I guess that's the way it's done. I didn't figure that out myself, though.
Yeah.
And this leads to an ending that you like very much, I think.
Yeah, I like the ending. Basically you get outside and it's all trees and sunshine, and then you've got the zombie kind of guys from Half-Life with the head crabs on their heads coming towards you. Like, oh, nice. So, I mean, we all know that it's set in the same universe as Half-Life, but yeah, this was just an interesting ending to go for. So basically, this would put the game at around, well, it could put the game anywhere after the year 2000, basically, but who knows?
It's between Portal and Portal 2, though.
Yeah.
In fact, both of these, I believe, are.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are. I think a lot of the mods and the workshop levels, if they have story, they seem to want to put it between Portal 1 and Portal 2. It's as though everybody wants Portal 2 to be the ending because it was so beautiful.
Right. They don't want to mess with it.
But there's all sorts of time between the two that you can play around with.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I like this ending. I didn't expect it, and it was nice to see a little Half-Life, a little bit of crossover there. So yeah, good times.
So what I would say overall for me, this was small in story, but solid. It worked. The voice work was fantastic, and the lines that were given were good. It focused on Chambers. It didn't do a lot of backstage stuff or any of that kind of thing. There are probably secrets in it, but there weren't a lot that felt like I needed to find them. It wasn't that kind of thing.
Oh, you found the cube in this. You found the companion cube.
Yeah, and in the playthrough I saw another companion cube, so I think that
oh, really?
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't get to it, though.
No.
And maybe you can't, but I did try, and I did think there must be a way. There must be a way. I want
to take it with me to the end.
It shows the love that they have for the game. like I said, for me, the save points didn't work as well. For you, you said that they were fine. We had some buggy issues that are probably fixed now by the time that you play this. There were no gels, but I didn't miss them. And honestly, it makes sense. When we get to Mel, you're going to find that they wanted to use gels, but it doesn't make sense time-wise, but they just fixed it with a line of dialogue.
Right.
Gels wouldn't have been invented yet, technically, sort of. Mm-hmm. But it works. And it felt good to be playing Chambers again and to play something that is... Like, there are definitely... I found a couple workshop ones that are multiple levels. And, you know, they're numbered. And you play through one, you play through the next one. But it's nice to not have to go through and find them. It's nice to just be able to play through. And this, to me, felt just much more Portal than Aperture Tag was. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, as indicated by the fact that I played Mel immediately right after and enjoyed that, I just love playing in this world, and I still want more, and I'm glad to see that even coming next year, there's another big Portal mod that should be out, and I'll probably be playing that as well.
I'm talking about it right here. Gaps filled and more gaps created.
Did you see that? It's called, like, Revolution or something?
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be awesome.